Today's guest on Uncharted, Your Sidekick for Life is Holly Tachovsky, serial entrepreneur, tech founder, and one of the world's top experts in real estate data, even roof age. Holly built and sold multiple tech companies, including BuildFax, which became the go-to property data source for major industries. In this episode, Holly shares honestly and humorously with a real behind-the-scenes look into entrepreneurship. The grind, the grit, the rejections, the ugly cries, and the breakthroughs that only come when you're willing to go face first into the unknown. We dive into the lessons you don't get from obtaining a business degree. We talk about how community builds resilience and why laughing at yourself is essential, because real success usually starts when everything seems most uncertain. If you're thinking about starting something or getting back up after a fall, Holly's story is pure fuel.
So, welcome to Rounding Up's Uncharted, Your Sidekick for Life, Season 4, Episode 3.
Hey.
And so this is going to be an interesting conversation today with our guest, Holly, and I'll let you say the last name because I don't want to butcher it.
Tachovsky, Holly Tachovsky.
Tachovsky. I bet you have to say that for everybody all the time.
That's all right. Or I can just go with a one name like Cher.
Right.
Just Holly.
Holly.
There you go, just Holly.
Yeah.
But before we get started, I know that we did some brief intros, but I wanted everybody else in the room to kind of get to know each other. So, Gloria, would you kind of talk about you for a second and the kind of the line of work that you're doing right now?
Sure. So my name is Gloria Park, and I am traditionally it's called wealth management. So I help people manage their money, investments, and particularly for business owners. Now that sounds kind of boring. So to make it sound more fun, I like to say that I have the opportunity to help people find efficient and meaningful ways to the things they want.
Yeah.
So I think that sounds nicer. And yes.
And just as a suggestion, you probably want to lean back and look kind of this way because all the cameras are looking back here.
Yes.
So.
Here I am. It's my good side too.
Yeah. There you go.
Hey.
And also I'm working on writing a book. And so this is for, it's really a roadmap to help individuals that are aspiring or even seasoned entrepreneurs, business owners, really navigate the complexities of, starting or growing a business. And so this book, right now I'm in the process of interviewing business owners to find out what the common pain points and victories and overall strategies they use to become successful in what they're doing. So one statistic that I found is that this generation will have the most new business owners than any other past generation. And so with that, the sad thing is that there are no reliable resources to help them other than maybe going to business school, which even with that isn't the solve as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping to help this current and future generations with this book.
I would say there's a lot of resources. It's just hard to navigate what's what, because there's so many, magazines and books and everything else.
Yep.
And so adding something from the perspective of interviews of other business owners and things of that nature is great. And it's all about what we're doing here, which is mentorship and taking learnings from people that are doing it and helping the ones that are about to come in and do the same thing. So great work on that journey.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it come to fruition.
Thank you.
And Miss Natalie.
Hello.
Mrs. Natalie.
Yeah.
Mrs. Natalie Payton.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm Natalie Payton Newman. I'm working on when to drop the Payton. I'm not sure when.
Or
I think
if ever.
If ever. Let's
You're
wait
a
until I am a person, Natalie, on
There's
podcasts.
not a person Payton. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm still working on the name change. It's so wild how many places you have to change it. I mean, even every subscription on shopping websites and yada, yada, yada. This is boring. I am an actor, comedian, and podcast personality, and I am here. My purpose in life is to heal through humor.
Awesome. And your host here, Dan Dillard, multiple things in entrepreneurial that I've done over the all these gray hairs have taught me over time. But again, the main passion and purpose right now, the thing that kind of wakes me up and keeps me energized is this founding up both the podcast and the work that we're doing, which is all about helping Gen Z navigate through the world that they're having to face right now, which is what's full of challenges. And how do we help them get that? They've had to go through COVID and many other things that other generations haven't had, and so now how do we provide that help and mentorship and leadership to give them tools they need going forward? So, and now without further ado,
Yeah, can I circle back to that?
Sure.
About healing through humor?
Yes.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree with more. Actually, in the hardest, darkest moments, if you can make fun of yourself and make fun of the situation, you're going to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you, and that also, if I can laugh with you at just how dark and bad this moment is, and
Right.
oh my gosh,
Right.
this is really,
Yeah.
that it's it actually is the thing that brings us together. And I think about it a lot in actually work and entrepreneurship too.
Cool.
I believe in
Thanks
the power.
for sharing that.
I believe in the power of a good, hearty belly laugh. Dear Lord, did we
Yes.
f that up?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what got me through hard times.
Yeah, buddy.
And continues to.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think actually, I know we're going to get into founders and all that kind of stuff, but if you have a co-founder, you have to be able to really laugh with each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
That would be one of the litmus tests, I would say. If you can really make fun of each other and
Right.
laugh at your faults and the dumbness of your product or your plan or whatever, then
Same with an at-home partner too.
yes. Oh my gosh, yes. My husband and our children and all that. Yeah.
Yes.
Being able to laugh at yourself and laugh at the situation is the
I was recently
great litmus test.
listening to a new YouTube I'm falling in love with channel, and I'm drawing a blank on the name, but he's a cardiologist out of Florida, and he teaches just how the body works. And so one of the things that he was talking about was the vagus nerve
Mm-hmm.
and how to stimulate it, and he had all these ways to hack your vagus nerve. And one of the things on it was this good hearty laugh. It's just
Yeah.
that it's so important to stimulate that for so many reasons for your body.
Yeah,
But-
there's a reason why evolution made it.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
That there was a reason behind it. And I think it is, and we are social creatures, and there's a thing that it brings us together in
Mhm.
a way and releases in a way that I don't think there's no substitute for.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. What a gift.
So, Holly,
Yeah.
I'm excited we've talked before.
Yeah,
so
happy to be here, Dan.
I'm happy to had you back on the show, or actually this show, because there was so much that I learned in our conversations that I really, really appreciated. But why don't we enlighten our audience and kind of talk about what you do now, and then
Sure.
we'll go back to some of your origin stories.
Yeah. So I am a serial entrepreneur in the tech space, software and data, so SaaS and data in the past. And I currently have a company that my husband and I built and run, and then I'm also in the process of starting another company, which is really cool.
Wow.
We have one of our first sales calls this Friday, that
Nice.
kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so starting a new company is also afoot. Yeah.
But are both of those separate from BuildFax?
Yeah. So BuildFax we sold. So I built and sold 3.
Wow.
So let's start down that origin story.
Yeah.
But I want to go to the very beginning because our audience is designed for Gen Z, which is your 8 to 20
You
year
have
olds.
2 of them at
right?
home.
I do.
Right?
And so in them picking up kind of where they're at, I want to take us back to, when you were 13, 14, 15, 16, what did you want to be when at that point? Because I want to navigate that story.
Yeah, I wanted to be in politics at that point.
Okay.
And so I went to the University of Texas and got a degree in, but I don't know, I was always real businessy.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to get a degree in politics. Do you remember Andy Rooney that was on 60 Minutes?
Yeah.
I wanted to be like Andy Rooney.
Got it.
Write really thoughtful columns and stuff like that. And that's what I wanted to be. And so I went to the University of Texas, have a degree in government, which is their equivalent of political science.
Yeah.
But all during college, I had a job working for a venture capitalist
Yeah.
who was awesome.
Mhm.
Applied Technologies, David Boucher, and And at that, so we would get all these business plans, and he would have me just like write summaries of all these business plans. And I never thought that would be like the incredible education that it was.
Right.
But ultimately, doing that with him, and him correcting me and like, no, this is not the important part. This is the important part, or the financials. This is what you're looking for, not this. And so that education ended up being a lot more useful in my actual career than my education at UT.
What a cool job.
Yeah, it was. It was the coolest. And I think he took such a chance on me, right? Because I don't think there was any indication that I had a shot of being good at that. But he invested in me and helped me learn how to do that. And so I did that with him, during my college years.
How did you come across that job with the
I mean, I think it was literally in the paper.
Wow.
Oh,
and for those that have never seen a paper before.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, please.
Yeah. I think it was literally in the paper.
There was classifieds back then, and you could just
and the physical newspaper that you hold.
Yeah,
in your hand.
The Daily Texan, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that, and then I interviewed and just hustled and just worked really hard with him, and so I would go all morning. I would work for him, and then all afternoon I would go to class.
Did you ever go into politics or anything?
So I did. My first job out of college was my dream job. I got a job working for the Speaker of the Texas House of Representatives.
Okay.
So that's today is Dade Phelan?
Right? I think so.
Yes.
When I was there, it was Pete Laney.
Person that carries the huge gavel.
Yes. Yeah. So,
I played Dade Phelan in a sketch comedy. So
oh, yeah.
It was fun.
So, so it was Pete Laney.
Okay, Pete Laney.
And Pete was a really good man.
Cool.
He was a really good speaker and House member. He, like, the thing that I think made him such a good man to this day is that when somebody didn't know how to vote, he would say, you need to go back to your district because they'll tell you, if they didn't know how to vote on something. Yeah, he was just really
do your research kind of.
Go back to your district. Go talk to your constituents.
Nice.
They'll give you feedback about that. So he was real bipartisan guy,
So was this before or after the job with the VC?
This is after that.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, this was my actual job when I got out of college.
Got it.
And which was great. And I remember, so I was getting like an offer to do this job, and I knew this was my dream job, and I really wanted it. And I remember saying to my now husband, Andrew, I was like, if they don't offer me like $25,000, I'm not even.
I'm not even considering
I'm not even considering it. And they offered me $18,500, and I was like, okay.
All right, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Can I start right now? I didn't negotiate or anything. And so $18,500, even in whatever that was, 1999, 2000, something like that, that's not a lot of money.
Right.
And so, and yes, that was my first job.
Wow.
Job, man. Had to be there when the first representative got in, and had to stay till the last representative left.
Wow.
Oh.
It was all day long.
Oh.
It was a long.
How long did you have that job?
I don't know, a couple of years.
Did you pack your lunch?
And your dinner?
Because that, sounds expensive.
Breakfast,
if you're making
dinner.
There were actually
right.
always lobbyists bringing lunch.
Oh,
So actually you
nice.
had, and it was like whatever, like it would be something that like the oyster lobby or something
Right.
would come, and you're
Nice
just like, that's huge.
Wow.
And then whatever oil and gas lobby was always bringing,
Steak.
Lots of
yes,
perks.
yes,
So 18,500 plus lots of great perks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, lots of great perks. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
and then I wanted to work for a committee, the Texas, the Constitutional Revision Committee, and it was like 2x the salary.
Wow.
Like it was high cotton.
Yeah.
Right. And that committee clerk that committee chair had to ask permission, and they said no, we don't train up our staff to go, and so they said no, so I couldn't do it, and I was like, oh man,
Wow.
yeah, and
You would think you could move easier once you're
You're
in.
like, I could
I think
stay
after a
here
while,
if you
maybe I
wanted
could've.
2x my salary.
yeah, and it was like oh, and I did love it, and then
I have a question regarding that.
Yeah.
Though. What did it do for your mindset? Because I feel like if I'm in that space
Mhm.
and I'm like, I'm now being limited by my position versus like I have got a place to go. Like I feel like
Wow.
I would struggle with that. Did you?
I said no, F this.
Mhm.
I mean, it was
So you
beyond. It was
struggled
beyond
with-
struggle. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it was like that. You have to paddle your own canoe.
Right.
Yeah.
And that I think was definitely a move towards entrepreneurship. And then a friend of mine was starting a business and was like, I don't know, as founders, we can probably make like 24. And I was like, yeah, I can do that.
Cool.
Yeah, that's great money. I'm in. And that was also not true. We couldn't do 24.
Like you
But-
couldn't make that.
Yeah, it was more like, it was like,
15.
it was more like we could make $24,000 a year, like when we had the money.
Right.
And so it was like, so I don't know, probably went down to probably 12 or
Yeah.
something like that.
So what was interesting about that dynamic, and I think that I just kind of thinking from the audience's perspective, is you are now in a dream job, and you're there for a couple of years. You've studied for this, you've learned a lot of things, and this is thing. And then the job itself is what kind of puts this why in the road for you. It's like, hey, I don't like the
That's
controls.
a great way to say it. It's like, it's almost like it presented itself. It was like the whole concept of like natural consequences.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That was always going to happen sooner or later, right? You're always going to get, when, and so yeah, that happened. I'm really grateful.
It's
Like
like a
you're
door
talking-
closing.
Yeah, and we're talking about like the gifts that you don't think of them as gifts at that time. I mean,
Right.
at that time, I don't know, the gift of poverty
Yeah.
did not feel like a gift, but
Right.
in hindsight, it really was.
It was
Right.
the gift of the decision making, right?
Yeah.
Because at that point, it is. I remember that why in my life from
Mhm.
becoming employee to employer, and it was okay. I felt like the decisions that were being handed to me weren't as good as the decisions I could make,
Ooh,
and I was like, how do
you
I
get like a chip on your shoulder.
Mhm.
It's
I think.
it's like that's not the most efficient way to do this, and I know a smarter way to do this,
Yeah.
and do I live in this condition being told
Mhm.
and knowing that there's something better?
Yeah.
And versus and so that was kind of the why for me. But so it was neat. It was right in front of you. It was a dollar sign. Here's the
Yeah, and
2x, and here's this,
and like to do that, and I don't even think I knew what it meant or what it would mean for me
Right,
at the
right.
time, but it was. And then we were starting a software business
okay,
for building departments.
all right.
This is you and a business partner.
Yeah, there were a couple of us that were going to
Oh,
do.
cool.
So we were starting a business for a software for building departments, and then
So I have another question that is regarding around.
the why.
Well, more the tenacity and risk, right? Because that's, I think, at the heart of all our decisions is risk and trust in oneself. And so, what was it? A lot of people look at a job as, and I always,
I really agree with you, though. Right? It's like I think that becoming an adult is making decisions and living with the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And not making a decision is still a decision, but like, okay, I'm gonna go do this, and then I'm gonna live with the consequences, whatever they are, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to navigate out or into whatever the next thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, because a lot of times people think of a job as stability.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always, in my past as a financial advisor, I always thought that's like a false sense of security, because that can be cut and pull. You can pull the rug of that at any point. There's layoffs, and then all of a sudden your life's upside down. So there's not
Mhm.
really ever stability, but a lot of people think of that as stability.
Mm-hmm.
And then to go to the complete opposite and become an entrepreneur and write your own check.
Yeah.
So my
I mean,
question,
sometimes.
Yeah.
You
If
get a
you're
check
lucky.
occasionally.
Yeah.
write your own check or go negative at the bank. Either way,
Right.
it's on you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So my question is what was inside you already to kind of make that jump? Because a lot of
Mhm.
times comes from parents or mentors.
Yeah,
or
my
others.
dad was an entrepreneur, and so I definitely had that mental model. And then I'd also, like with my work with the venture capitalist David, I mean, that I had seen that, and then I think that committing yourself to something is awesome. Like, all right, and like in this over and over in my career, like, go ahead and commit yourself to something. My dad has this way of phrasing it is like, are you the pig or the chicken at breakfast? Right? So like the chicken was involved, the pig was committed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that the actual joy in life is from being committed.
Yeah.
Like the this is
Be the
it.
pig.
And the peace
Yes.
that it must give you.
Or just
You're
the
not
life.
one foot in, one foot out. Yeah.
Yeah, the life that like the joy to be is like,
Mhm.
this is, I'm committed. I'm in this, and I think that the joy that we have so like same thing with my marriage, right?
Yeah.
And so like this is the number one source of joy in my life is my relationship with Andrew, and like that's because like I'm in,
Right.
all the way, and that's why a lot of people get so much. I think that's why a lot of people get so much joy out of parenting, is because it's almost like this natural obligator.
Right.
But yeah, our joy, I think, in life comes from the things we choose to obligate ourselves to.
Mm-hmm. And at that
I
point,
really like that.
when you made that leap, you were what, 25?
Yeah, ish.
Yeah, because it's a new. I've always heard that if you're going to dig into entrepreneurism, even though there's risk, it's less risk when you're younger, right out of college, because you don't have the mortgage and the kids and all of the things that are needing to. There's just more stressors on you for the decisions you're making early in a business. So.
Yeah, go. I think go face first.
Right.
Right.
Dive
and then you figure it out. And like, because you're so in the milieu, right? You're just like so in it. You're gonna, like you were talking about, like, how do you learn? How do you figure out what you're doing? If you're just in there, the gift of desperation, the gift of,
Yes.
That it just happens. It makes itself known to you.
Necessity is the mother of invention. Yeah, it really is. And so I've always grabbed at that, because when you're in that point of I've got to do it, you figure it out. You figure it out, and it is what grows us as humans. So incredible. So how was that first business experience for you?
I said that I was selling software to city councils for building departments. I feel like that was self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Sounds like it was exciting. It's like, what is it like watching paint dry?
I mean, I don't know, or less than that. Something was, yeah.
Boy,
so
the lead times on those, that must have been.
Oh gosh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Like the lead times on the contracts were terrible. Like
explain to me what it means that you were doing. I don't quite understand.
Have you ever got a building permit for something? Do you know what a building permit is?
I've never gotten a building permit, but I understand if you have to build something, you need a permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so those are issued by local, like there's 19,600 of them in the United States. These departments that issue building permits to make sure that you're following code, which is really important. Like having a safe house or safe office buildings is really important. And then local zoning and all that kind of stuff. And so we had software that we sold to building departments.
Okay,
so it was like you had to go through city council, budgeting processes, just very long, hard,
arduous
sales cycles with It was
It's complete opposite thing you want to do as an entrepreneur.
Got it.
An entrepreneur is like fail fast and fail often.
No,
this is like fail slow.
Beat your head against the wall early and often.
Yeah.
and so, but not all was lost. And so out of that company, we figured out how. So we figured out, like, holy shit, there's a lot of data in building permits, and nobody's ever gathered all the building permits in the United States. And so that's what we did. We were like, okay, we can go and literally, like, we were like, okay. And what is so dumb about what we did was we started without really a clear customer in mind. And like, it still is physically painful when I think about that and think about how, right.
I've got a problem I'm going to solve. I don't know who the customer is.
Yeah. And so
I'm going to spin my wheels, damn it.
Yeah. But I'm going to spend some money.
Yeah.
Right. And so we were blowing through cash, gathering all of this building permit data, because it was a very expensive prospect to go set that up for the first time nationwide. Right.
Yeah.
By the end, we were gathering like 84 billion data points that changed every day. It was so much data.
Wow.
Right. But we were doing it first without a customer.
Right.
Oh my
We
gosh.
know it's going to be important for someone.
Yeah.
How did you raise money for that, or how did you have the money to do that? Because that's an interesting thing when you go try to raise without customer.
So we actually, but I don't know. It made a lot of sense. Like it's the largest asset class in the world with the least amount of data.
Got it.
And so there was a lot of belief that we could find a customer. And we were our original customer hypothesis was to sell it like you sell Carfax.
Right.
Yeah.
No trademark infringement intended.
Yeah.
So that's why we were BuildFax, right? We were going to try, like, if you would spend $20 on a Carfax report, would you spend $200 on a BuildFax report about the next home? That turns out to not be true at all.
No one cares.
Yeah. Turns out to not be true. And so that was the original customer hypothesis, which was it just turned out to be a total zero. And so then we were figuring out who the customer was. And so we raised money from a company out of London called the Daily Mail that's owned by a British lord named Lord Rothermere.
Mm-hmm.
And he was awesome.
Nice.
And he was a fantastic investor and a business partner. And like when we were up against the wall and we had run out of money, and like he extended a line of credit to us based on a handshake.
Wow.
Yeah, he was.
So he saw something.
Yeah, he sure did. And he invested in a lot of U.S. Data companies, and particularly real estate data companies, like when real estate data companies were finding their footing. And so, so he was like, yeah, you're going to figure that out. And
how did you come across that relationship? Because it sounds like, because part of the things like we go into some of these life stories, oh, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this. But for the person at home, it's like, how did that happen?
I don't know how to meet the Lord.
How do you meet the Lord?
Yeah,
someone in
right,
London.
me neither, right? So that was also desperation, right? So we're out of money. You know, we're going 1,000 miles an hour toward a brick wall, and yeah. Have you done that before?
Mm-hmm.
The brick wall gets really big really fast. And so we were doing something that was so painful. So we were trying to create partnerships in the market to try to figure out where our product would fit. And so we're reaching out to all these partners. And like as soon as a partner would show any interest at all, we'd be like, hey, do you make investments? Which is like the most unpower position you could possibly imagine to get a partnership with. And so we were talking to this company called RMS, and so they were like, ooh, like this data is good. And they did hurricane risk models.
Oh, wow.
Right. I'm going to get more boring. You just wait.
Buckle in.
Building permits, then we got hurricane risk models.
What's next?
We're going to go. Like the most boring industry ever. And so, we were talking to RMS, and they said, oh, like we think we can use this in our models, and they were really excited about it. And so we were like, I was like, hey,
do you all make investments?
And they were like, no, but the guy that invested in us does. And I was like, well, who's that?
Nice.
And they were like, it's this guy.
So an intro.
Yeah. And then they were immediately really engaged and very involved.
And the moral of the story is you just keep asking. You never know what's going to happen. But
open mouths get fed.
I love that RMS wasn't gatekeeping either. Like,
yeah, they were really lovely.
Yeah.
They were like, oh yeah, and
well, there's a win-win there for them, right?
Right.
If they see a nice partner here that's got some really good data, but they need help getting up, like, we can help them up. Then it's going to help us too.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah, and so they invested. So we were out of money, and they put in, I think it was like $300,000 to help us make the next couple payrolls.
Oh, wow.
That's so cool.
It was.
You had a big team if the $300,000 was a couple payrolls.
Yeah, that was a really painful mistake. Yeah. Yeah. All those sentences are correct. Yeah.
It was learning lessons.
We had families to feed.
Yeah, it was, we were going
100 miles an hour at that wall.
Yeah.
We were going fast at that wall. And because so we had gotten this market feedback that we didn't have enough U.S. coverage. And so the way to get the coverage was spending money to get the coverage. And so it was like a real chicken and the egg kind of thing to figure out. Yeah. And I think I don't think that decision was exactly right. I think that we probably could have gone slower and spent less money. And
what I love about this piece of the story, though, and I think it's important for us to pay attention to, is you get so many like statistics out there about you start a business or start a restaurant, this high failure rates and this and that, and but then there's also, you can make a lot of mistakes in business and still recuperate.
You just have to keep surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing though, to be real, is that those mistakes can cost you a lot in the cap table.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's real. And so, especially in that type of business.
Right.
Because that when you're running at the wall, the money's expensive.
Yes.
When you're kicking ass and taking names, the money's cheap.
Right. Yeah.
But when that's the situation. So I think you should tell them about my change of tone. that was some hard moments.
It took me back, man.
Yeah, there was some hard moments there. Yeah, but also really
a little
joyful.
PTSD.
Yeah. but also we're just really joyful. The winning together as a team, and that was just, it was also like, that we were the pigs. We were committed.
What kept you going during that time? Looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars in payroll, having to ask for more money. Like, what kept you going instead of just throwing in the towel and be like, look, it's not going to work out, Like, what was it? What was important?
So I think that there were a couple things. It was the commitment to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea of just turning to my co-founders and our employees and being like, dude, I'm out. I couldn't, that wasn't even a thing that crossed my mind to quit on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting because as you were asking that question, it's one thing to not give up when you have identified a customer and things are just tough and I can't raise money. Okay, I'm going to do these things and just kind of, because I see that end in sight. But at that point, you didn't have an identified customer. You just knew the data was valuable at some point, but you didn't know. There's so many unknowns.
Yeah.
Even with the 300K, you did not have an identified customer like that.
Are you judging?
Not at all.
I
haven't filed my taxes yet. I can't judge anybody.
That's funny.
Oh no, I'm so
things you like.
No judgment here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we did not. I mean, or I don't know. Hope springs eternal, right? We thought we had one, but this didn't kind of work out. Because you know what a customer does? They spend money,
right?
And I think that and what a non-customer does is spend hopes and dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that actually figuring out the difference between those two is because I think entrepreneurs very often have happy years,
right?
Oh, they said they were going to call me back,
right.
I think that means they're going to buy,
right,
and that's not what they said. They just said they were going to call you back.
Said they'll give you a call back, yeah.
And so
they said, I'll call you, don't call me.
Yeah,
right.
And you're just
so
sitting by the
Did
phone.
you hear what they said? They're going to call me, not to even worry about calling them back.
They took my number.
Exactly.
So that's done. On the sales pipeline, we're going to put that at 100%.
Exactly.
We've exchanged numbers. Yeah. And so I think that's what you're doing. You think you're there, and man, that is one of the PTSDs I have. Is I feel like I was always saying stuff like, oh man, we're running a marathon, and I didn't realize I thought we were at mile 25 when we were really at mile 12, but now we're really at mile 25. And
right.
Oh no, you're at mile 2.
Right.
And just that
realization,
that fatigue of begin again, you always have to try. I mean, that is so yeah, we we thought we had a customer. We thought we were figuring that out, but eventually we figured out that our customer, or our first big industry that went with us was insurance.
Oh, cool.
And that was...
I love this story.
Yeah,
let's dive into this story.
So we were out of money again. That we were just always out of money.
There's a theme here.
Yeah.
Yes, we were always out of money. And we had kissed a lot of frogs by this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not. And so we were out there just I don't know, talking to hedge funds, talking to banks, talking to insurance companies, and so we decided to pivot from B2C to B2B. Actually, I don't know, decided to pivot sounds way too strategic. We were looking.
Let's try this way.
We were where? Yeah. What? Who's got money? I think businesses have money.
Yeah.
And so we were we'd sent our data to a few insurance carriers, and there was a conference here in Austin at Barton Creek Country Club, and it was an insurance innovation conference.
Boring.
I know. I told you. I set expectations. Right? It was going to get worse. So we were, and so it was insurance innovation conference, and we were not even invited. But this woman named Kathy Smith was like, "Oh, are you going?" I was like, "Yeah."
Duh.
And
obviously, I'll be there.
Of course.
I mean, I might be a little late.
What do you wear to an
insurance innovation conference? And so I just went because I was like, I don't know, I'll just go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and just see who I can talk to. And so Kathy Smith had taken a look at our data, and she was there, and I was like, oh hey, and she was like, oh, were you enjoying the sessions? I was like, yeah.
You were out in the hall. You were out in the hall.
I was like,
Totally.
yeah, like
Hanging
my
out by the
bag
bathroom.
just in my bag, or whatever. and so we sit down. We're having a glass of wine, and she says, you know what we do with your data, and she's like, well, we actually. I was like, what? And she was like, oh, and we've performed this calculation, and we subtract this number from this number, and we do all this. And I was like, oh, that sounds okay. So do you want to buy more data? That sounds like
Sounds like you need more.
Right. And she says, no, like I have to train a whole staff on how to use this and do this. Like you're making me do all the work. Can you just do that? And so she was calculating a thing called roof age. And
Fun.
oh, I know. I set expectations. I was going to get more boring.
Roof age. How old's your roof?
I made so much money on it. I made so much money on roof age. Like, no, it's real exciting to me now.
Yeah.
It'll change your life.
Yeah. Roof age, get you some roof age. And so they were calculating this, and I was like, why in the world does that matter? And she called over this guy and was like, hey, Ron, if somebody could tell you the age of every roof in America, would you buy it? And he was like, yes. And she was like, how much money did you spend on roofs last year? And he was like, I spent $7 billion replacing roofs last year. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
These are the nuggets that keep entrepreneurs going.
Mhm.
When you go from like, what keeps you going? It's you have these little nuggets. They're just conversations. There's no money. There's nothing. There's a hope.
That's right.
It's hope.
There's not even an invitation.
There's no invitation.
It's not even an invitation. They don't want you there.
Yeah, but you show up.
And so he was like, yeah, and he was an officer at one of the top 5 insurance companies in the country, and this is property and casualty insurance. And they did. And so I called my so I was hanging out, and I literally got like 25 business cards because Kathy Smith was telling everybody I could, which I could not do.
Right.
Sure.
We did not.
They
actually.
went and did all that work, but it was off the.
Yeah, but we didn't actually have the ability to do this. And so
I remember you saying you provided her like a stack.
Yes, just like vomit of data.
Right.
Like no. And she found the pearl. But so I called on the way home. I got in the car and I was like breathless. And I called my co-founder and I was like, look, they do like this. They do like this. This is the formula. Like this, like this, like this. And he shit on this so hard and was like, we can't do that. That's not a thing. Like this. And he just told us like all the reasons why it was just going to be a total disaster.
Aw.
And I was like,
Deflated.
it was raining. I remember I showed up at home and I was crying. And my husband was like, damn, baby.
Babe.
Yeah, what's going on?
Here's a
Huh?
bottle of wine.
Yeah. And he was like, I remember he drew me a bath and was just like, and that's it. I was like, that's it. That was kind of.
So that was what you asked earlier is like, why do you keep going? That was a point where you're like, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, man. And so then my co-founder called me at the crack of dawn the next morning and was like, I did it. I said, what you talking about? He's like, yeah, that thing. I did a bad version, but I did a version. And literally that was it. And from that moment, everything changed. It was like finding product market fit. They talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
When it actually happens to you, you know. Right? Because everybody called you back. People showed up for the meetings. When you send them contracts, they send you red lines. You know, when you send them, you know, and then you talk pricing. I mean, like it was just the market response was 1,000% different than when we were trying to sell.
This is what it's like when they like you back.
Yeah. Ouch. Yeah. We weren't the hot girl for a while there. And
but you were the pig.
They actually kept my number
We're
this
the
time.
committed pig.
they scheduled the follow-up meeting. Oh God. Yeah. It's when they like you back, it feels it's a completely different feeling and you know. And I talk to startups about that all the time. Like it's like I think I have product market fit because no. You don't have it yet.
Yeah.
You don't have it yet.
You know.
You know.
Yeah.
It's lightning in a bottle.
Wow.
Well, what I love about this journey and this story and again thinking about the 18-year-old or 20-year-old out there that's like, just I don't know what I'm going to do in life. It just things will work themselves out. But in the process of figuring out who you're going to be and what's inside, there is a lot of self-discovery and
Yeah.
those moments where there's hope and then there's despair and there's all the things, but I just want to point out that the despair isn't necessarily a bad thing. That's the part of growth.
So there's a piece from the Bible where Jacob, and it's in Genesis, where Jacob sees this angel and wrestles with this angel all night.
Mm-hmm.
And in the morning, he discovers that the angel is actually God, and he asks God for a blessing.
Right.
And God breaks his hip. And bestows this blessing and breaks his hip. And it's like, you are forever broken and forever wounded, and also
You're Israel.
Forever blessed.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's a weird...
And here's the name change.
It doesn't...
Exactly.
And here's your blessing.
Yeah.
You get a name change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I'm listening to Bema, like you said. So I think I'm coming up to that story. It's a really great podcast about the Bible.
Yeah.
But
you were
that's
forever
such a
wounded and
great
forever
story.
blessed.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the way, I think that when you really wrestle, sorry.
Wrestle.
We're in the South.
Yeah.
When you really wrestle with something.
Catch up and catch up.
Pecan.
Yeah.
That is a great visual because, like, a lot of times when one has come to the other side of success, it's like, yeah, and I have the scars to prove it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, because you have to go through that. That is where the growth is.
Mhm.
That is the the seed that goes underground and just kind of like what's happening there.
Mhm.
You're sprouting.
Germinating.
Yeah, exactly.
We only get so many days on Earth,
Yeah.
right? Whatever somebody says is like 4,000 weeks,
Wow.
That's right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all we get.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're going to get that, like, do a thing. You know, go and put your teeth into something. Go face first into something.
I love that.
Try.
I really love it. I think that's great advice. I've got a 22-year-old and she's trying to figure out that. And so part of my journey and all the building of this company has been kind of seeing her challenges and that age group and what they're having to live through, and also teach some of the things that I've had to learn, which is what you're saying.
The terrain might be different, but the earth isn't.
Right.
You know, it's still the thing we do.
Well, and part of, I think, the message here that I'm hearing and I want to bring out is, especially for the younger generation, is sometimes, technology and everything makes things like you wanted things have instant gratification right here and now. And, as much as you want to have that, when you go down an actual journey, like a founder's journey, it is an instant. It's like, I remember in business, you're like, oh, I'll have this contract by next week or next month or whatever. You're always thinking that time is here. And then sometimes that time is a year and a half, 18 months.
Yeah.
But every time I look back, I'm happy that those 18 months happened because the contract ended up looking different than it would have had I initially ran with it. So there's this wonderful appreciation of that time frame and how it's shaped you to become a better person for it or better opportunity.
Right, because it's like the gift that we have is this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I love being me.
Mm-hmm.
I love like that I get to do this.
Yeah.
That I get to be alive, that I get to be here with you and have this and have these laughs and that, like, we get to do this. And there's nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, yes, I love that. And also the knowing that we're all special, we all have something here if we dig enough and find it. And I think that's part of whether it's a journey of learning about history in the Bible or whether it's founders or whatever it is. It's just, what is that teaching me about me that I have to show and give and value to others. So that's great. I want to round out that story because I want people to understand what happened with that company. And then I've got another question for you.
Oh, they became one of our biggest, the
When did the first check clear, though?
1 million years later. It was so long.
Why?
It was I don't know. I feel like I have like a karmic badness of picking really long sales cycles.
Yeah.
I need to find my next business needs to have really short sales cycles.
Yeah.
I think that we got a yes almost immediately, and we didn't actually start making money money with them for 3 years.
That's
3
crazy.
years?
And you have to, and you're supporting the company. I mean, so there were other checks that, we had other customers that were
Sure.
faster than that,
Uh-huh.
but they were a huge customer.
Mm.
And literally they were saying yes the whole time, but it was the integration, the this,
Oh,
that,
Lord.
all that stuff, the tech review.
Training,
It was 3 years before we were fully up and rolling.
With that one company.
It was a long time. Yeah, but they were a monster.
Mhm.
And then along the way, there were also references, when we,
Oh, you could say so-and-so is already going to work with us.
I mean, it was, we became an industry, I feel like we became an industry rumor,
Mm.
that then,
Nice.
became a full-blown industry infection.
Yeah.
Right.
It was, and then that was when it really took off.
3 years.
Yeah, and again,
Yeah.
there were smaller customers that were able to move.
And they sustained and
Sure.
and all
But I
that.
mean, I think even a smaller customer was still like a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoa.
But you had a lot
But
of
you had a
work
customer.
to do. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Wait, it's a year from now, but it's a customer.
Right.
Actual customer. I have a contract,
Yeah.
and that,
Wow.
yeah.
And that changes everything for finance as well, because once
Mhm.
you've got contracts, you can finance
Raise
other-
money.
you have options.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, if you don't have a customer,
it frees it up.
Yeah, and we got better
Yeah.
at doing what we did. We got more efficient at doing what we did. We had another business that we decided to that was the original software business for building departments. We decided to burn the ships and sell that business,
Mhm.
which was a very hard decision. Yeah, but we burned. I mean, we decided what are we all in on?
Right. Yeah.
You can't be pigs in
Well,
two places.
Right.
Focus.
Mm.
Focus. Yeah.
Yeah,
Roof
so we did.
age.
So we sold that business, and that fueled more of the growth of the other.
So let's talk success story, because at some point this business then becomes this
Mm-hmm.
place where I remember you saying majority of the world looks to for in the insurance space.
Yeah, no, but we took over. We created this whole category and then owned the whole category.
Wow.
So everything from hedge funds, we could predict the census housing starts and the census commercial numbers weeks, if not months, before they came out.
Wow.
Banks. I mean, it was we
Everybody's buying your
Mhm.
data. at that point.
it was we just owned that whole space. I was saying to my son the other day, I think I'm the world's leading expert on permit data.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we were just talking like whatever. How many?
Do you know
minutes
who your
ago.
mom is?
Yeah.
I said leading expert on permit, and you were just talking like I don't know when you were in high school. What did you want to be?
Right.
Yeah.
The sentence leading expert
Never
on
crossed your mind.
permit data in the world
Yeah.
was not in the running. It
No.
wasn't.
That's not what you put in your high school book.
Never. But then I think I became that to like this,
Right.
which still kind of cracks me up. Yeah, and then
And so how did the exit come to be?
I wasn't ready.
Okay.
I did not want to sell. It was like, dude, like we
We
just
finally got here.
we just hit our pace, we're just
Mhm.
killing it. We were
Mhm.
growing like a weed.
Mhm.
We were growing, I don't know, it was just happy, and so our lead investor was like, yeah, that's when you sell. I was like,
But it feels so good
Ugh.
right now.
So I originally didn't agree with that decision, but eventually, but I mean, I got there, and then we went through like a whole process with an investment banker and a road show and the whole thing, and then ultimately found an absolutely fantastic home for the business, which is a Fortune 500 company called Verisk. Fantastic home for the business, wonderful people, and but I was not. I wish that I was so wise and strategic that I knew exactly when to.
Right.
But
Somebody,
I'm not, and I
something-
wasn't.
Something prompted you to. Someone advised you on that.
Yeah.
So the question I have, and I can't believe we've already got most of our content for this, but the question I have that when you and I last met,
Yeah.
you didn't like the word mentor.
I don't. Yeah.
And
I'm
so
a little
wanna-
pet peevy about the word mentor.
I want to pull on that thread. Why? And because obviously we're
Because I feel like we're all just co-travelers.
Mhm.
And mentor to me is a little condescending.
Right.
And like it suggests that the information is one directional rather than a relationship where, hey, we're co-travelers on this path. And I feel like when I want a buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what? You just like
Sidekick.
you need some stuff. I need some stuff. Like
Yeah.
we're buddies co-traveling. We're the Canterbury Tales, you know? I mean, like together. And I feel like that way of looking at you know, like one of my dear friends, one of my folks on the board, Rob Barber, the first time after we gotten the money, the first time I did a budget and I presented it to him after the board meeting, he was like, "You don't know how to do a budget, do you?" I was like,
What are you talking about? I just sold a company.
That looked like a budget to me. It had columns and there were 12 months.
Doesn't it look like a spreadsheet to you?
Yeah.
And he taught me how to do a budget.
Oh, that's
You know, and
so
then
hard.
I feel like he's a co-traveler that like he gives them to me and I give him you know, and that we're in that way.
Well, what I didn't intend for this answer to come out that way, but it just kind of goes into the sidekick for life because that's what mentorship can be. And I really appreciate when you first told me that about mentorship, and we've been doing so much work on mentorship because that's just a name that people give. I just think of it as the sharing of knowledge. Someone's done that, been there, done that, and can give you insights on that experience. But what I want to point out in this vision that what you've brought out, and also the experience that I've seen, is that not because a person's a mentor means that that's the right way to do things for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I've, in my journeys of building things, I've brought in many advisors and mentors, and I want to hear how you've done it, this and that, and they'll, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way, and then you realize that worked for you, and that's really great. But I'm on my own journey, and I don't think I'm going to do it exactly that way. So it is a co-traveler that maybe gave you some really good nuggets here and there, but you still have to pave your own path.
Yeah, I think there's also some, I don't know, just the way that you said that, do this, do that. There was a very masculine way, right, of presenting that. And so I think that's also part of it, is that there's a very masculine mentor to mentee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? As opposed to, like, we're in the tribe together. We're trying to get, a place, and like we're trying to make the pie bigger.
Yeah.
Right? And that to me means that I want to be in community with people.
Right.
Not that I want to be bossing them around. And I know that that's not the best version of mentorship. That's a bad version of it. But in this, like, I want to be in the community of people that are
learn from one another. And,
that are working together.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that viewpoint. We've got a co-founder, and one of the co-founders in Finding Up is a rocket scientist, right? And so he's always
like,
reading.
For real.
Real. And so he's like, earlier in the journey, reads all the time, everything. And so, and I'm CEO, I'm making decisions and everything else. Well, this book says this, and this book says this, and this book says this. And I finally had to say, it's like, yeah, but the world changes. And that worked for that person 10 years ago with the technology that they had at that point in time. But the reason there are so many of these books is because everything continues to change and adapt, and you've got to take your own path.
I also think that what ends up in the book is BS.
True.
It's what
right?
the publishers
like if I were to write the book,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, and we had a customer,
Yeah.
or whatever. It's like it's always a polished version.
Hint for your book.
Mm-hmm.
Make
Keep
sure
it gritty.
Then that's why I asked the questions around, because it's easy to get to that polished level, and that's what you get in the book. But the nitty gritty is what you want, because that's the teacher.
Have you ever read the book by Phil Knight's Shoe Dog?
Yes.
I felt like that was a really gritty take on how Nike, in a way that was.
I love that book.
I loved it, and I think that's why we love it, is because it was a rare book that wasn't so polished.
Right.
Yeah.
It's ins and outs and the ugliness and everything else, and that's where you get that value. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I think that if somebody, I don't know, learning from mistakes.
Yeah.
It's like the signal, like when you try to separate the signal from the noise. I think that successes, it's harder sometimes to see the signal in successes because you maybe don't even know.
Mm-hmm.
But like you can see signal in mistakes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Beep,
Ouch.
beep, 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 beep.
Ouch.
Right.
That broken hip hurts.
Yeah, they come through.
Yeah. No. And yeah, that's what I love about the journey of meeting so many entrepreneurs, so many journeys, and hearing the common theme is the learning all happened mostly in the
failures.
In failures.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is that our school systems are always, you get that A and this and that, and they don't teach that it's the C where you're learning, or the D or the F that you actually do. Because you got to like, where did I mess up? Oh, that's the aha moment, and that makes you better. And so that's not taught enough, in my opinion, to where when you go into entrepreneurism, you learn it whether you're ready or not. That's where you're going to find it. But there's also this beautiful, when you look back, and it's not a bad thing. It's like, yeah, it feels like that hip doesn't hurt. It hurts right now, but it allowed me to become better because of that. And you look back and you make that. I tell my daughter life is like a game, and it's like, imagine Donkey Kong, the barrels are coming your way, and you got to figure out how to get over it. But once you figure that out, that same thing is not going to be a problem for you anymore. You got to go to the next level and figure out what's coming next. But you start wanting to see what's that next thing because there's something exciting on the other side.
Yeah, the joy to be of going face first, going in.
I love that, face first. Okay, any closing questions? I feel like a lot of times I just ask all the questions, but any other closing remarks or thoughts? In our last interview, there was like 3 questions that came up after the cameras shut, and so I'm like, no, let's open this up.
Okay, I'll touch on what we talked about before the show, like how, if without a business degree, how did you figure out what you didn't know? Like how you've sold 3 companies without a business degree. Did you just listen to others around you who knew how to run a business? How did you know the right questions to ask or where you were lacking information?
So I think the first step is just to begin.
Yeah, just start.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, just like you just go and you begin, and then you start talking to customers a little earlier.
Maybe.
But you go, and then you also, I think, going and getting in community with.
I was going to say that.
With, other entrepreneurs. And so you're talking, you're getting coffee, you're getting a beer, right? And you're like, and you listen to them and they're like, oh, dude, wow, that's really smart. What did you just say?
Right.
And then you just start to, it's like you start to live it and be it. And then it almost couldn't be any other way, and then you fail and you try, like it's just the doing.
Okay.
I wanted to add a piece to that. It's mindset thinking that if I go get a degree in business, I'm going to be a good business owner. And that's not at all what it takes. That just kind of takes you to a framework, but the lectures and the teaching is like a very small percentage of the real stuff that goes out there. So
the grit.
Yeah.
Right? The grit of going in front of a customer and trying to pitch them, going in front of an investor, right? The grit and the resilience that comes with that cannot be purchased in a degree.
I was going to say the degree is more like the chicken, but when you're out there, you're the pig. You're out there, you got the real things on the line, and then that teaches you so much faster.
Once you have committed yourself to it and obligated yourself to it, potentially obligated yourself to payroll, or just obligated yourself in front of all your friends and family to saying, this is what I'm doing, it provides a motivation and a desperation that, you start reading business books, you start, talking to friends and people, you start talking to customers. Like it makes itself. That's what
Okay.
I think your tip about being involved in community and being in front of people is so important, especially for Gen Z who grew up with, cell phones in their pocket, not even a cell phone, but a computer in their pocket. And it's very easy to not have to talk to people, to get things done, honestly, right? You can do a whole degree online without ever seeing a professor or another student in person.
Right.
But I think your tip of just getting in front of people, meeting people, talking to them is important. Like somebody, a person of, Gen Z age, like 21, 22, had told me like, well, with our generation, there's a lot of people like influencers who just make a lot of money online. And like, how would you advise them, if they have all this money? And I'm like, well, have you ever met any of these people? Like, why don't you try to ask them yourself or strive to meet these people, talk to other people. Don't just believe what you see online.
Yeah, go meet some people, hang out, talk, go to lunch, ask some questions. And then it becomes, and I think that one of the mistakes I think founders make is often like, my idea is too secret and special.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to tell anybody.
Right.
But I think if you hide your light under a bushel, like nobody ever finds out. I mean, like I get that early stage you want to be careful, but I think you actually end up doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up because it's not the idea. Ideas all are out there. It's the execution.
Dang, holy smokes, yes. Right? Like I got 1,000 ideas. It's actually going and doing it. That's actually the hard part. Coming up with a business idea is not.
Right. And so I think that there's the fear, and the whole idea is get away from the fears. The fears that we have grown with in society. Let's just get away from those. It's the facing first, finding yourself, figuring it out, and don't be afraid of sharing in community, because in the community itself will help raise. If you think about the business as a child, the community takes a village to raise a child.
Oh, that is a beautiful analogy. Yes.
So,
and I think when I find communities of entrepreneurs, once you get it past like the first little bit,
The
there's
first layer.
There can be a lot of
Peacockers?
sure, yeah.
Peacocks.
In the
Wannabepreneurs.
super early in that, but once you get past that layer, I find the community of entrepreneurs to be incredibly generous. Generous with their knowledge, generous with their introductions, just like, and if you come with that, sort of pure of heart, like, hey, I'm just trying to do this thing, that people recognize that intention and will meet you with that intention.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason why sharing your idea is actually really important, because it shows like, hey, I'm thinking about I trust you. I'm thinking about this, that. And if it's literally so easy that if you tell someone a couple sentences and they can do it,
it's just not worth it.
then that is a big problem.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah, that's like the anti-moat.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like an on-ramp or something.
Right.
That's a hard reason.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I've had,
thank you,
once again, another wonderful conversation, and lots of insight and humor and all the things that you brought to the show.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Uncharted, Your Sidekick for Life. Huge thanks to Holly Tachovsky for bringing her raw honesty, humor, and hard-won lessons to this conversation. Remember, real growth happens when you commit, go face first, and stay in community with others on the journey. You don't have to go at it alone, and that's the point. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a review, share it with a friend who's dreaming big, and subscribe so you don't miss next week's Real Talk. Catch more episodes, resources, and updates at foundingup.com/uncharted_podcast. And check out the show notes for more details. See you next week.